Hey there, we're with Joey Williams, from the Director of Marketing from UT, talking about the future of education, the future of post-secondary, and the hope we have for the future based on the wash of Gen Z talent that's coming through the system right now.
Let's get into it.
How long have you been doing, have you guys been involved with doing something for South by since the beginning?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that, South by is sort of like it was like this expression of Austin and UT and sort of like, I don't know, the creative community and UT didn't really pay attention. Like UT wasn't really like in a marketing phase. It was like, I thought it was like, we're just like a big brand. We don't really have to do these things, so it didn't really like participate, even though it was founded by two UT alums. South by was started by two like RTF alums, and turned into like this huge thing. So
really shaped the city.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. So just for context, how long have you been with UT?
12 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've seen some changes then.
Yeah. So most of that was like an executive in like crisis communications. And then they put me in charge of Happy Stories about 3 years ago.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I've been promotion.
I've been telling Happy Stories for 3 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So what's the number one story that you're telling to the market right now?
It's largely like recruiting students. It's like, that's what universities do. It's about, it's a mobility engine, it's about like, taking talent and, cultivating it and like setting it upon the world to like go and change the world, for the benefit of society. So like a lot of my focus is on that. And kind of combining that with like the research and innovation, which is part of the South by thing, like the thought leadership. Today, like we had 2 young women who are current students who have started their own businesses. Extremely like creative and ambitious, and just like they're so like full of like optimism, especially like in when we think of like the troubles and the climate of the world, like they're optimistic. And like I meet these young people and I'm like, you know what, it's gonna be all right. Like we have a lot of like really like positive, incredible like energy like coming up in this generation that like gives me a lot of like positivity. I'm like, all I have to do is like shine this light.
That's amazing.
So it's I love it.
You have the school has a reputation for launching innovative talent, like talent that's looking at the problem from a unique perspective, or approaching the opportunity in a unique way. What is it about the brand's DNA that consistently puts out, I don't want to say just challengers, but I think, certainly culture and world shapers, right?
Yeah. I think that there's sort of this perception of like Texas as like an identity of like, I'm just gonna do things the way I want to do them.
Yeah.
There's like this individuality that like attracts people,
right,
to and it's in a place that has incredible like resources to like enable that and like foster it. Like if you want to like take a risk and try something big, like this is the chapter to do it, and this is like a place to do it.
Come to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and like if you want to go come to South by and
Yeah.
you want to meet people that have like, you know, knowledge and resources to like start a company, you know, like and like rethink a problem, like
Mhm.
you can do that here, you know, like, and that's pretty unique,
Mhm.
you know. Yeah, it's it is special, and like and that's not everybody, you know. That's not the entire identity. The identity, you know, the entire identity is a whole bunch of other things, but
Yeah.
like
There's that spirit.
there is that spirit, yeah, and it like definitely like pulls a certain like segment of folks to it.
A type of thinker, like
Yeah.
a way of being sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
You have a connection not just with innovation, but with entrepreneurship too, if I'm correct. Like there's a sort of a capacity that the organization or the brand has to sort of interface and provide that boost to that young, particularly young or like startup and entrepreneurial energy. Has that always been the case for the school, or is that something where you're responding to forces in market?
Yeah, I mean, yes, the latter. I think it's just evolved, and now like it's evolving into like obviously technology and energy. Like today, we had a panel on like energy and AI. Like, how is AI shaping energy infrastructure, and how is AI shaping like healthcare, and like it's happening here. And like we had Jim Breyer, you know, I mean, like major influencers in like these spaces who have actually moved to Texas to do just that because they feel like the culture is more receptive to like to do it here, you know? So it's interesting. And I feel really fortunate because like I'm just like benefiting by like learning about it.
Yeah.
You know, and like being like more aware of it all the time.
Back to the recruiting a little bit. The landscape of education has obviously changed a lot. And specifically speaking to this new generation, how are you connecting with Gen Z, and how are you communicating with them differently? Like, what does that conversation look like?
You know, I mean, I'm ashamed to give you this answer. I almost don't want to like answer that because it's going to like expose me, but like, it's like releasing control.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, we hired a whole group of students. Like I have we created this team of social media ambassadors, which are just really talented young storytellers. And and we just kind of give them the keys.
Yeah.
You know, like you have the creative space to talk about your experience, you know, and
so making like your students are the face of those conversations. Yeah.
They are. And like, not only is it them, but like they are so much better at telling their stories than we could ever be. You know, it's not about like bringing in a big production, you know, and like hiring an agency. You know, I mean, no, It's about identifying like young talent, which we're like awash in, you know, and giving them like, you know, like here's some things we want you to like think about and go out and like create, you know, like give them space to do it, you know. And also it's like an educational exercise too, you know, like you want to like give them some framework for, you know, how to like tell a story, but like they're so much more sophisticated. I mean, I'm 45 years old. Like I could never tell the stories that they're telling in the way that they're doing it and making it relevant. You know, and I just eat it up. You know, I'm like, what music are you putting to that? You know, like all these like culture, like little like cultural components that I find, and I have like young kids. I have two young daughters, you know, like, so, you know, I think about them and that aspect too. But yeah, it's, you start to realize like you don't have to like you don't have to be the one that comes to the table with all the creative
You don't
ideas.
need the answers.
Yeah, and like you just have to kind of enable it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's on, I would say, our minds, or probably not just us, but AI is obviously a massive conversation. You guys are putting yourselves at the center of it with the research that you're supporting and the faculty that you've built. There is this question mark of like how higher education fits into a world where information is so readily available, and even education is so readily available.
Yeah.
What are the thoughts in the organization about how your approach to post-secondary, whatever, like how does post-secondary change in like an age where information is like right there, right now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I mean, universities are in the people business, you know, so like it's recruiting like the very top minds in the research, you know, like, I mean, and which is really fascinating because like when you're recruiting faculty, it's a global market. Like you're not just competing with, you know, for us, Texas A&M, or like we're competing with universities across the world,
Right.
For like the very top minds,
Right.
because the students want to come and work with those people, like the graduate students, the PhD, you know, the doctoral students and the undergraduate students. So like that's where a lot of like the research is happening, and the thought leadership is happening.
Right.
And there's a lot of like new sort, you know, and I think there's this perception that academia has not really, it's been too like rigid to like work hand in hand and like respond closely to like industry, right?
Yeah.
You know, so like there's a lot of like focus on like making that more like seamless,
Right.
you know,
Getting into step.
yeah. And just removing the bureaucracy essentially, you know, so which is a big focus for UT. There's a huge initiative to like, you know, faculty that have like some really innovative idea that they can actually like bring that to market much more quickly and responsive than has been the case in the past. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting time for everyone. I feel like with what we've heard from you, there's a part of the DNA of UT that's sort of ready for this moment, as opposed to like trying to. I hear you say that there's a bit of change, that there's some catching up or some syncing up with market and whatnot, but that attitude of like enablement, that attitude of connecting with entrepreneurs or connecting students to entrepreneurship, however it is, seems like you're on the edge of the new place of value for a post-secondary institution, whereas I think there's a lot of them that are still trying to figure out how to monetize, you know, 4 years, 2 semesters a year, kind of
totally
class load sort of thing.
I mean, this is the thing, like, I mean, the whole idea of, well, education, much less like higher education, is being challenged right now. Like, what is the role of a university? Like,
right.
And honestly, and you know, and universities have to be responsive to it.
Yeah.
You know, and UT is doing that. You know, like we're like working really closely with like industry right now, and making sure that like we're recruiting like the top students that can come in and like fill jobs that don't even exist today. Right. You know, when they graduate in 4 years, you know, it's it's fascinating. It's fascinating. But, you know, like I work with students a lot, you know, and I'm just like blown away by that. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was 18. I was like, I was so insignificant, like compared to like this generation. Like, I feel like I'm just like
entrepreneurs being creators on their phones. So like so in touch.
No barriers.
No barriers. Like
they have
Started a business in my kitchen last night. I have 100,000 followers and I made 6 figures before breakfast. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Totally.
they're just like so knowledgeable and like so savvy and ambitious and I'll tell you this one quick story and then I'll shut up. But this was one of my first jobs at UT was producing this video around the student success, and the first student that I interviewed was student, the first generation student. He showed up at the interview. He had a suit on, 3-piece suit.
Amazing. I love this.
His dorm room was his first home ever.
Wow.
He was homeless, and he was a straight A student. He was running a business out of his dorm room, and he was sending all of his financial aid money back to his family.
Wow.
And he was so smart and dialed in, and I was just like floored. I'm like, oh my God. And optimistic, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to do so many good things in the world. And I'm like, this is a kid that he was homeless, you know, his dorm.
Wow.
And like this was one person.
Yes.
We admit 8,000 every year.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so that moment, just like, I was like, this
An impression on you. Yeah.
This is exactly the place that I want to be.
I love that.
This is exactly the place I want to be. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just as a final question, we have a theme every year at the gathering as part of our community. This year, our theme is winning the future together. And I'm curious how that resonates for you, and what do you think are sort of the key ingredients for success or winning the future?
Winning the future.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. I mean, for me, the future is kind of what I just described, you know, like, it's, you know, basically just like elevating talent, you know, like, we're not the only ones trying to figure out the problems that we have in the world. Like there's a whole generation that's coming behind us that like, they're just as aware and talented and actually and better equipped.
Yeah.
You know, and as a parent, you know, like I mean, I see that in my kids. I experience it with, you know, the students that we work with and that we're educating and that we're recruiting. I mean, a big part of my job is like recruiting students and I meet them, and like the young woman we had here today, like she started a company when she was 13 years old, and like I want her to take over the world. Like the world will be a better place when people like her have influence. So
empowering, enabling. Yeah.
That's cool.
I love it.
If you have reason to be optimistic about the future based on the people that you're interacting with, like,
We feel hopeful.
Yeah, me too. I feel like better.
Feeling relieved.
Yeah, there is a generation coming that is ready to make change and doesn't know the barriers, right? Like they don't experience the constraints the same way the rest of us.
So good.
Kind of grown up.
There's a whole salvo of talent that's about to like wash over the world, and
it's going to be fun to see.
I cannot wait.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
Awesome, Joey. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate making the time for us.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
This is great.